Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Coach Craig's Sports. This is the MLB DFS Core Pick video, Core Pick live stream for today, July 14th. It's back. MLB is back after the All-Star break. So it's been about a week since we had a video. There'll be no recap at this point in time, obviously, since it was last Friday. But if you guys have any questions at all whatsoever during this live stream, if you're watching on replay, feel free to drop it down in the comments. If you're watching live, obviously throw it in the live chat. But the plan for today, going to be going over to RotoWire, looking at the weather report for today's games. There's 14 games in total. About 7 of them do have a little bit of weather concerns at this point in time. We'll go over to FanDuel after that, talk about the core picks that I do have. If you're joining me for the very first time, it's going to be one pitcher, 4 hitters in general that either have pretty good recent history or a combination of recent history and past history versus the pitcher they're opposing today. And then we're going to go over to my cheat sheet on the YouTube community tab. Last but not least, that cheat sheet is 100% free. It's up on YouTube. It's up on Facebook. It's up on Twitter. So definitely be sure to check that out as you're building out your lineups. If you're interested in more in-depth notes, be sure to check out the Patreon page at patreon.com/Coach Craig Sports. Hopefully all these probable pitchers stay the same. Did some research yesterday. Later last night, it seemed about like five of the pitchers were different than they were initially announced to be earlier in the day. So that will be something else that we're monitoring throughout the day. But if anything changes majorly, weather-wise, pitcher-wise, anything else like that, we'll leave that down in the comments below. But without further ado, we're going to get into that weather for today's games overall. Like I said, it's a 14-game main slate. There's only one game that's not on the main slate, and that's that San Diego Padres and Philadelphia Phillies game, which also has a chance of rain today, but we're not going to talk about that one. We got Miami and Baltimore out, and Baltimore 65% chance of rain overall today. So that is going to be one of the ones that we're obviously watching throughout the day. You know, skipping down a little bit here, not going through each and every game, but New York Mets, Los Angeles Dodgers out in New York, 62% chance to rain. So that will be another one we're keeping a close eye on. Down in Atlanta, the Atlanta Braves and the Chicago White Sox, 36% chance of rain. So probably ends up going off, but we'll keep an eye out on it as well. Then we get over the Chicago Cubs and Boston Red Sox in Chicago, 63% chance of rain. Pretty decent chance there once again. And then the Kansas City Royals, Tampa Bay Rays down in Kansas City. We got a 66% chance of there. On the other side of the state in St. Louis, we have a 40% chance of rain going against the Washington Nationals. Also another one that we're going to be keeping pretty good tabs on today. Then out in Colorado, you know, where the weather can be a little bit unpredictable, we have 29% chance of rain. They're going against the Yankees today. And then I believe we still got one more to talk about. Nope, that will be it. So there is 7 games in total today that does have a decent chance of rain. So will be something that we monitor throughout the day. Expect some rain delays today, maybe some postponements. We'll try to keep you guys updated on that as best as possible down in the comments. So definitely make sure you're checking up there and down there as we do get closer to lock. But with that being said, we're going to get off that screen. We'll get over to FanDuel and talk about the core picks that I do have for today. Going to be a pretty interesting slate overall. Probably a good one to mix and match just in general. There are some guys that do stand out in terms of past history, but at the same time, good to slate to mix and match once again. And obviously, maybe avoid some of those rain spots today. So we're going to start off at the pitcher position with Corbin Burnes, $9,600, going against the Cincinnati Reds, who have been a pretty hot team, you know, as of late, headed into All-Star break and everything else like that with their exciting young crop players. But Corbin Burnes has pitched really well against them in the past, whether it was this year, last year. So he's got 40 points and 34 points versus the Reds this season. 46 and 47 versus them in 2022. So some pretty good history there at that. $9,600 price tag, looking pretty good there. I will apologize in my cheat sheet today. I did list him down at $9,700. I'll have to double check my notes to make sure that is not the case listed there too as well. Otherwise, I'll have to change that on Patreon as well. You know, it's been an up and down year for Corbin Burnes. ERA is almost at 4. Obviously, if he can control the home run balls, get the strikeouts, it's going to be a pretty good day for him. Got 7 wins in total, about 32 fantasy points on the season. These last 2 most recent starts heading in the All-Star break were really good, and the most recent one was against Cincinnati. Sometimes you have a little bit of a fear there once a guy, you know, has faced a team back-to-back. Sometimes the second time around, the team does it a little bit better. So, you know, you can still mix and match some pitchers today. I think there's going to be some good options out there, whether it's him, Tyler Glass now. I like Brian Bayo today against the Cubs at $8,500. There's some cheaper end guys, too, whether it's like a Miles Mikolas, Kenta Maeda, and pretty favorable matchups as well. And then we're going to move down to our hitters. So I got CJ Cron here at $2,900, a value spot for him today in Coors Field. $2,900, the guy with his power. You're not going to get that too often. Going against the left-hander and Carlos Rodon making the second start of the season. Rodon only threw, I think, 68, 69 pitches in his debut start. So probably not pitching too deep into this game once again, but CJ Cron typically does hit left-handed pitching pretty well. Although in his career versus Carlos Rodon, 1-for-9 with 1 home run versus him. So we're kind of betting on some upside there at a decent price tag. If you don't want to go out of your way to play CJ Cron today, definitely understand that. Been a little bit bothered by some injuries this year. 244 average, 7 home runs, 23 RBIs, averaging just under 9 fantasy points per game. Been a little bit hit or miss. So I definitely do understand if you don't want to play him, but there is some pretty good upside to be had there at a reasonable price tag today. And then at third base, I think there's a lot of viable options at third base today. You can look at Nolan Arenado, who has hit Trevor Williams pretty well in the past. If it ends up being Trevor Williams starting for the Nationals, I believe that one on a couple of sites is still listed as undecided for today. So we'll keep a close eye on out that. But ultimately ended up on Justin Turner, $3,400. This is one of those rain spots today, so we're going to have to keep an eye out on that. Same thing with CJ Cron, but Colorado one's probably more likely to go off just in general. But Justin Turner, $3,400. You can play him at first base. You can play him at third base. Was hitting the ball extremely well headed into the All-Star break, going against the Chicago Cubs and Kyle Hendricks today. 4-for-14 with 2 home runs versus Kyle Hendricks in his career. So some pretty decent history to be had there. When looking at Justin Turner on the season, 288 average, 13 home runs, 52 RBIs, averaging just over 11 fantasy points per game at $3,400. Pretty reasonable price tag there. Like I said, heading in the All-Star break, he was one of the more consistent hitters to be had. I don't even know how many. Let's count this real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So he was on a 10-game hitting streak headed into the All-Star break, and we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and half of those games were multi-hit games. So some pretty solid floor there, some pretty good upside at the same time with Justin Turner, as long as this game ultimately ends up going off today. Then we're going to move down to shortstop. And this is a guy that was a little bit banged up headed into the All-Star break. So we'll see if he starts today. If he doesn't, obviously this is a core pick that will change throughout the day. But it's Brandon Crawford, a guy that's had a little bit of a down year, had a little bit of injury history for this season. So when you look at the numbers in totality on the season, not going to look too good. 215 average, 5 home runs, 25 RBIs, $2,400, getting about 7 fantasy points per game. So just kind of a cheap value on today's slate overall. Don't mind the Giants as a potential stack today going against Rich Hill. Rich Hill, you never know what you're going to get out of him. There's going to be some good starts. There's going to be some bad starts. The start earlier this season versus the Giants was not so pretty, though. And in his career, Brandon Crawford versus Rich Hill is 11-for-23. There's no home runs to be had there, but some pretty good history there, hitting almost 500 versus him in his career. Ultimately, he's got this hamstring injury that he did suffer before the All-Star game. So we'll see if that affects him in any way whatsoever. But he did hit a home run 2 games prior to the All-Star game, or the second to last game that he played, at least. So a little bit up and down there. If you don't want to play him, definitely makes some sense. You can mix and match him in just even as a one-off or as in a potential Giant stack today. And then last but not least, we're going to Teoscar Hernandez at $2,900. Hitting 250 on the season, 15 home runs, 50 RBIs. So a pretty good RBI total there at that. Averaging just under 10 fantasy points per game on the season. Like I said, $2,900. Not a bad price tag there. He is 8-for-19 versus Eduardo Rodriguez, who is pitching for the Detroit Tigers today. He has 3 home runs versus him in his career. So that is kind of why he ended up on the thumbnail today. One of the better hitter versus pitcher matchups just in general based on past history for today. And with that being said, Teoscar Hernandez is a guy that typically it's left-handed pitching pretty well. Eduardo Rodriguez, he did spend some time on the IL for about a month. Made 1 start before the All-Star break, so this will be his second start back. We'll see how on top of his game he is, although he was pitching pretty well to start the season, at least early on in the year. So look, heading into the All-Star break, we got a 2-game hitting streak for Teoscar Hernandez. He's one of those boom-bust players, so when you get him on the right day, he's really going to put your lineup over the top, but then you're still going to have the 0-for-4 day with 2 strikeouts too. So hopefully that's not the case today, and hopefully it's that good day overall. But there's a little bit of downside with him, but the upside is very tremendous, especially at $2,900, kind of a pay down spot for him overall today. But with that being said, if you were to go with the 5 players that I do have listed here, you have $13,800 remaining, just under $3,500 per player. So plenty of room to mix and match, depending on how you see fit just overall today. If you want to pay up for a couple different options, lots of guys out there today, or if you want to make a little bit more balanced approach, it's definitely valuable on today's slate as well. But with that being said, we're going to get out of this. We'll go over to the YouTube community tab and talk about the top GPP teams that I do have to stack for today. Like I said earlier, good day to mix and match just in general. So keep that in mind. only 4 of them fit on my cheat sheet. But if you go over to the Patreon notes, there's probably about 9 different teams that I do have listed as potential stacks today. In seasons past, post All-Star break, you'd see a lot of quality pitchers starting the first game after the break, but a lot of quality pitchers do pitch in the All-Star game, and then just kind of how these rotations shook out, not as quite as many high-end guys pitching today, at least. Let's put it that way. So the first one that I do have in terms of stacks today is going to be the Atlanta Braves. They're going against Michael Kopech, who is coming off the IL, was dealing with a shoulder injury for the Chicago White Sox. Not sure exactly how far he'll pitch in this game. Could get into that bullpen as well. And Michael Kopech's been kind of hit or miss just in general. There's not too much history over here versus him in the past. Matt Olson is 1-for-1 with the home run off him. Eddie Rosario is 1-for-2. And then after that, not too much history for their Braves team, but their lineup is obviously pretty potent overall. Then we have the New York Yankees going against Austin Gomber of the Colorado Rockies. Gomber's got an ERA up over 6 at this point in time. This game is in Coors Field. If it ultimately does go off, there is that small chance of rain out there today. But these Yankees hitters typically at left-handed pitching pretty well. Obviously, it's a good atmosphere in Coors Field today, so definitely do like them quite a bit. Then we have the Boston Red Sox, if that game ultimately goes off as well. That game is in Chicago against the Cubs. Kyle Hendricks on the mound. Hendricks was pretty slow to start the year, kind of slow into the All-Star break. In the middle there was a good stretch of period, so not really sure what you're going to get out of him on any given start. It seems like with him, typically, if his curveball is working well, he'll be all right. If his curveball is not working well, which could be the case, if it's in damper conditions and everything else like that, if that game ultimately ends up going off, then he can be hit pretty hard since he doesn't have that, above average fastball. Even it's probably below average at this point in time, just velocity wise and everything else like that. So do like the Red Sox. Justin Turner's got good history versus some Adam Duvall. I did throw Jaron Duran in the cheat sheet as well, since I do like him quite a bit, especially if he hits leadoff once again today. Kike Hernandez has a little bit of success versus Kyle Hendricks as well. And then last but not least, we go over the Milwaukee Brewers going against Graham Ashcraft. Ashcraft's kind of had a pretty struggling season. He started off pretty good to start the year, had a very long streak of poor performance. The ERA is up over 6 at this point in time. Had a pretty decent start headed into the All-Star break, so we'll see what he looks like coming out. Obviously, if his slider's working, that's going to be the main pitch for him. Brewers do strike out a little bit, but their lineup's a little bit banged up, but still like some of them guys, potential cheap values here to be had in this Brewers lineup overall. And then, like I said, mentioned just a couple other teams there. If you want to chase that Mariners stack with Teoscar Hernandez, Julio Rodriguez, who I do have in here, and you're throwing like a Ty France versus left-handed pitching in a Rodriguez, there could be potential to be had there. A lot of different options. If you want to stack some Tampa Bay Rays going against Alex Marsh, definitely makes some sense there as well. Good slate to mix and match once again. Obviously, keep an eye out on that weather for today. And like I said, if anything majorly does change with my core picks, I'll leave it down in the comments below, as well as many starting lineups as I can get to throughout the day. But with that being said, if you guys have any additional MLB DFS questions, be sure to drop them down in the comments below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Also very interested in your favorite play today, whether it's someone from my core 5 picks, whether it's someone from my top GPP stacks, or whether it's a completely different player you guys think I missed. Definitely interested in hearing what you guys have to say when it comes to that. And then with that being said, if you are new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, we got MLB DFS, we got CFL DFS. That video did go up on Wednesday. I do apologize for the audio quality of that. Internet was lagging pretty bad that day, so hopefully you can find that still watchable. But if you're interested in MLB notes just more in depth, if you're interested in some of that CFL DFS data as well, be sure to check out the Patreon at patreon.com/Coach Craig Sports. As we get back into MLB, we'll be doing the prop of the day once again. We'll have that posted on Twitter, on Facebook, and under the comments. So be sure to look out for that this afternoon. And be sure to get signed up for Parlay Play, Prize Picks, and Bet US if you're able to do so in your state. Great way to get some betting exposure. Great way to get a hold of some great first deposit offers as well. All that description is down in the comments below. We'll have it also posted up with the bet of the day as well. But with that being said, that's really all that I do have at this point in time. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in, whether you're watching live or on replay. Definitely means a lot to me. Hopefully each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS tonight.